Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really incredible ancient text called the Mahācattārīsakasutta, which translates to the Great 40. You can think of it as a detailed architectural plan for the mind. A genuine blueprint showing us how to build a solid foundation for unshakable focus and clarity. So let's get into it and explore this ancient blueprint together.
So if you were going to take on a project like that, where would you even start? Right? How do you actually construct a mind that's truly concentrated and focused? Well, the text kicks off with this really fundamental question, and its answer is literally the key that unlocks the entire system.
And here it is. The sutta says that the absolute forerunner, the essential first step, the one thing that has to come before everything else, is what it calls right view, or sammādiṭṭhi in Pali. It's kind of like the foundation slab for a house. Without it, nothing else you build on top is going to be stable. Every other part of the path, everything you think, say, and do, completely depends on getting this starting point right.
Now, the text draws a really sharp contrast between two basic ways of seeing the world. On one side, you have what's called miccādiṭṭhi, or wrong view. And this is a super nihilistic perspective. It's the idea that, generosity is pointless and our actions don't really have consequences. But on the other side, you have the baseline for sammādiṭṭhi, or right view. And it's this simple but profound acknowledgement that yes, our actions do have results, that there is a moral fabric to the universe.
But it doesn't stop there. The text gets even more specific, explaining that there are actually two levels of right view. The first is a worldly view, and this is the bedrock for just living a good, decent, ethical life. But then there's a second, much deeper level, the super-mundane view. This isn't just a belief system. It's a direct, penetrating wisdom that becomes an active part of the path to complete liberation.
Okay, so once that foundation of right view is poured and set, we can start putting up the rest of the building. The sutta then lays out a whole series of path factors, and what's cool is that each one has a wrong version that leads to confusion and a right version that leads to clarity.
So right after view comes intention. Micca sankappo, or wrong intention, is what happens when the mind is pointed toward things like grasping for sensory pleasure, wishing bad things on other people, or just generally intending to cause harm. These are the thoughts that just stir up the mud and make the mind all cloudy.
And the alternative sammasankappo, or right intention, is the exact opposite. It's the conscious choice to cultivate intentions based on letting go, on genuine goodwill for absolutely everyone, and a real commitment to not causing harm. It's all about choosing where you aim your mind.
From our thoughts, the blueprint moves to our words. Wrong speech, or miccavaca, is pretty straightforward. It's when we use our words to create suffering. Things like lying, saying things to turn people against each other, using harsh language, or just engaging in meaningless gossip.
So it follows that right speech, or sammavaca, is really a practice of restraint. It's making a conscious decision to just not do those four things. It's about recognizing that our words have real power and then choosing to use them skillfully to create a bit more harmony and truth in the world.
Next up, we get to our physical actions. The blueprint defines miccakamanto, or wrong action, with three main examples: taking a life, taking what isn't yours, and sexual misconduct. These are actions that cause very direct, very obvious harm.
And just like with our speech, right action, or sammakamanto, is all about abstaining from these harmful behaviors. It's about carrying that same mindfulness into what we do with our bodies. So you can start to see a pattern here, right? Right view supports right intention, and that in turn helps shape our words and our actions.
But how does this switch actually happen? How do you go from wrong to right? What's the actual mechanism that drives this whole process? Well, the sutta gives us this really beautiful, dynamic image of an inner engine that powers the whole thing. So this engine has three key parts, and they're all working in tandem. First, right view is your map. It shows you, hey, this stuff is unhelpful, abandon it, and this stuff is helpful, cultivate it. Second, sammavayamo, or right effort, is the fuel. That's the persistent energy you need to actually do the work. And third, sammasaṭṭhi, right mindfulness, is the person behind the wheel, paying attention. It's that clear awareness that keeps you from driving into a ditch.
The text uses this fantastic Pali phrase, saying that for any of these right path factors, these three things, view, effort, and mindfulness, run around and follow after it. I just love that image. It shows this isn't some static checklist you tick off. No, it's a living, breathing process where these three are always there, always supporting the work of transformation.
All right, we've laid the foundation, we've put up the walls, and we've talked about the engine. Now we're finally ready to see the entire structure.
This is where the name of the sutta, the Great 40, is finally going to make perfect sense.
So the wholesome side of the path is actually expanded here to 10 factors. It builds from the ethical stuff we just talked about into much deeper states of mental cultivation. It all leads up to sammādiṭṭhi, or right concentration, that steady, unified, powerful state of mind that comes from all this training. And out of that clarity, sammāññānam, or right knowledge, arises, and then finally, sammāvimutti, right liberation. It's the whole progression, from having the right view all the way to total freedom.
Okay, so how do we get to 40? It's actually pretty cool. First, you take the unwholesome path. This has 10 wrong factors, from wrong view all the way to something called wrong liberation. The text says this is a complete system in itself. Each of these 10 wrong things brings along a whole bunch of other negative states of mind, which are its 10 supports. So 10 plus 10 gives us 20 factors on the unskillful side.
And then you have the perfect mirror image on the other side. You've got the 10 right path factors, which also form their own complete system. And they are supported by 10 corresponding sets of wholesome qualities, things like faith, energy, and wisdom, that pop up right alongside them. So that's another 20 factors on the skillful side.
And there you have it. You've got 20 factors on the unwholesome side plus 20 on the wholesome side, which gives you the Great 40. It's this incredibly comprehensive map of the mind, showing two completely opposite ways of being, and each one is its own complete, interconnected system.
And the sutta itself makes this bold claim. It declares that this teaching, this Great 40, is an unassailable system. It says that no one, not a mystic, not a god, not any being anywhere, could ever refute it, because it forms a complete and logically sound blueprint for how the mind actually works.
And that brings us right back to where we started, back to the foundation. This ancient blueprint makes it crystal clear that our underlying view of reality is the single most important element in our lives. It determines the intentions we have, the words we use, and the things we do. So the question it leaves us with is a really personal one. What's your foundation made of? And what are you building on top of it?